my camera's up. Is it really obvious that I'm not looking at the camera?
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
We're on. Yeah. So welcome to Gentle Discipline. This is so exciting. I have Claire Franklin here with me today. I'm so excited to have this conversation. I came across you via Substack. You write and you run the Harmonious Home approach, which is so much more than just interior design. What really happened is I came across one of your articles, and I wrote down the name of it. Another man leaving his wife saved my marriage. And I was like, okay, boom, I click on that because I'm like, that's interesting. And then I read it, and two things really stood out to me in the way that you wrote and just the points that you were making. And it was your empathy and your curiosity. And the empathy and curiosity are just two things that I find very rare in people these days. And so it was really wonderful to read that. Now I've just been reading all your stuff. I think it's so good. And I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
To hear about you. Yeah. So this kind of just made me say, like, this is a person that I need to talk to. I need to kind of discover more about and hear about your life, your approach, what you do, where you think you're going, all those things. So that's kind of the format that we'll use for this. It's just kind of like where you've been, where you are, where you're going. And then, there'll be all kinds of questions in between. So yeah, welcome.
Where do I start? Well, one, thank you very much. The article I wrote within half an hour. I read it. So the story I shared with my husband, he said what he said, and I was a bit like, oh my God, it totally blew my mind, really. And then from there, I don't know, it's just escalated into something bigger than I anticipated. It isn't really what I write about. I write about relationships, so yes, it is relevant. But yeah, the article is just crazy. So I don't know how far back you want me to go, but my life really has imploded within the last 4 or 5 years. I am a completely different person to the person I was before. And there has been so many things along the way that have led me to this point. And I'm so grateful. My life is completely different. I'm completely different. I feel like I am. Actually, I don't think I'm completely different. I think I'm the person I've always meant to be, but it was hidden, buried deep down. And then over the last few years, I've had the confidence to actually be myself. And I am so happy, like ridiculously happy. I can talk through all the different steps. I kind of call them dominoes, and one falls and it kind of creates the next thing.
Maybe we just kind of like rewind all the way back and say kind of like how'd you grow up? Because that obviously has a huge
massive huge. It's awful, isn't it, when you're a parent, as I have two girls, and you're just like, oh my God, your childhood really affects your whole life, and like the pressure I feel as a parent is intense. But yes, so my childhood was obviously the catalyst for my I don't know how to describe it, but just a very limited life. Even though it was quite full, I didn't ever really fully enjoy it, if that makes any sense. So my parents are alive, so I have to be careful what I say. Not that they would be ever interested in listening or reading anything that I write, but we are estranged. We've been estranged for about 3 years now. The most painful but the most brilliant decision I've ever done, to be fair, and one I would not recommend anyone else doing unless there isn't any other option. But it just happened to me in a way that I didn't really see it coming, but now I can see it was coming for years. But just the moment kind of happened and I was like, oh my God. But anyway, so I grew up.
That was your decision, though? You decided that?
My decision, I can. I'll do it really quickly because it's obviously I've got over 50 years worth of my life to discuss. So
no big deal.
Could be here a while. So I grew up a family of 5, so 2 older brothers. I was the youngest. Whenever I look back at my childhood, before I call it my awakening. Before my awakening, I didn't really have any viewpoint in my childhood. It was quite boring. Nothing was ever centered around us. We just followed our parents around. They drank a lot, so it was obviously going to the pub home, being left at home while they were at the pub. So childhood for me, I'd always thought it was quite boring. I always knew I wanted to just escape as quickly as I could. I grew up in a town called Coventry, which doesn't really have very much going for it. So I left school at 16. I studied fashion. I saw that as my kind of ticket to get out of Coventry. I did 2-year course, then went on to Newcastle. If that means anything to you, it's the north of England. I did a 4-year course in fashion, and then from there, my graduate show, I was presenting my work, and a representative from Calvin Klein saw my work, and I got a job. My first job then was in New York. So my life had suddenly, I got out of this small town, it really got big, and I was finding my feet, and I really wasn't that in touch with my family. I think I always knew I wanted to get away from home.
Did you see kind of fashion? Did you see fashion as kind of like a way to escape, or were you like passionate about it? Like, what made you choose that?
I'm just incredibly, I'm very, very creative, but fashion wasn't really my passion. Excuse the alliteration there. But obviously interiors was. But interiors and fashion, it follows the same sort of design process, so it's quite easy to migrate over to interiors. But yeah, it was just we didn't have very much money growing up, so I used to make my own clothes. So a friend at the time said, "Oh, you look really good. Why don't you do a fashion course?" And just like, it blew my mind. You could do a course in fashion. So I applied for the fashion course. I got on, and that's kind of how I fell into fashion. I look back at that time and I think I just let the universe guide me. I don't know how spiritual you are and all of that, but I didn't really go out with any big ambitions of what I was doing. I just said yes to everything. So I said yes to the course, and I got into my degree course. I said yes. I got offered the job in New York. There's no way you'd say no, but I said yes. And then at the end of my contract in New York, I just wanted to come home. Not even to my family home, but just to England and work over here, miss my friends. And then within a few months, I met my husband. So I feel like I was kind of meant to come back. And I was on this trajectory of just going through the motions then, and my husband and I got married, and then I had children, and that's when, for me, things started to go a little bit tricky, because I invited my parents back into my life because I thought they deserved to be grandparents. I tried to include them, and that's really when my parents are quite interesting. There's I can't diagnose my mum, but I'm pretty sure she's a covert narcissist. I don't know if you've ever come across them. They're really tricky. No one will ever believe you. Being the daughter, the youngest of the family, I was just perfect picking for putting me down to make herself feel good. And then because she was back in my life again, it was just my self-worth just kind of went down the pan, really. And obviously having children, I decided to not... I left my career and just kind of wanted to concentrate on the children. So my self-worth just hit rock bottom, really. And then COVID hit, which was an awful thing, obviously, but for me, it was a blessing in disguise, because it then created the distance again. And you start to think, oh, I can't believe they said that, or they did that, or is that true? And I just started to be able to feel like I find I get brainwashed by them, and I just could distance myself. And that's when the estrangement idea, without really having a label, didn't even know estrangement was a thing. In my head, I was just like, my body knew before my mind knew, and I was reluctant to spend time with them, and I'd cancelled plans to see them, and I just sort of distanced myself, essentially. And then through all my life, I've always attracted really toxic female friendships. Lots of women would be romantic relationships, but with me, it was platonic female relationships. I can clearly see how they happen, but they'd love bomb me. They'd be like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. I'd lap it up, getting all the attention, and then push me to do everything they wanted. And as soon as I said no, then they would kind of, go hell on you, as a typical narcissist would. And then the final straw was I was working as was an interior designer at the time, and I think they kind of groomed me to help me do their house up. And they pushed and pushed, ringing late at night, screaming at me for not doing things. And at one point I just broke and said, I just can't do this anymore. And then that was the catalyst of how it turns around, of when you say no to a narcissist and you're just a little bit screwed. So the friend threatened to take me to court, and she actually did take me to court, trying to get the money back that they'd charged, even though I'd already hardly charged them anything. It was a meal out, do you know what I mean? It was pennies, it really wasn't very much. And I just kept thinking, why am I attracting all these female friends? I'm clearly doing something wrong. Am I an awful friend? So I went to therapy, spoke to a therapist about it, and within the first session she basically said, you attract that kind of female friend is because that's what you're used to from your mum. Your mum treats you like that. And it's like so obvious. It's like, but you can't see it. You cannot see it.
When your therapist said that, was that just like light bulbs going off in your head though?
Yeah, it was like, when you just go, oh my God. And that scene in The Sixth Sense when this is a huge spoiler. I hope you've seen the film.
If you haven't seen it by now, like, that's not our problem.
I think I'm safe. But where he says, I see dead people, and Bruce Willis is just mind is blown, and all these he goes back over the stories and he's like, oh my God, so I did that. And I was thinking, you look back to your whole life and you're like, oh my God, it's all been a lie. And I was already kind of not really talking to my mum at that point, on a separate thing, just completely separate, because I'd asked her for help through this court case and she clearly wasn't interested. And I said, look, I get it, you can't cope, it's absolutely fine, I'm just going to take some time to just get myself together. So the two in my head weren't connected. And then that was it, really. Just started that whole kind of healing journey, understanding how my dad fits into that, how my brothers have kind of played into it too. So my mum, actually don't even say I don't talk to her, I just don't have a relationship with her. She doesn't really push it. But my dad and my brothers have very openly said that they are not talking to me, they ignore me. So overnight I pretty much lost my whole family, which is really heartbreaking. But I've done a lot of work of understanding that's actually the best thing for me. Yes, we can have this image of what mum and dad should be like and what brothers should be like. But if the version that I have isn't any of those things, then I don't deserve that. So it really made me appreciate the family I do have, the friends I do have. I worked a lot on my self-worth, learned to love myself. I realized I did not love myself. Spent every day looking in the mirror, telling myself I like myself, I love myself, and just boosted my self-worth up that way. Worked on boundaries, had no clue what a boundary was, didn't even know. And then you suddenly like, oh, you can say no, okay. And that kind of is like, it's amazing, because I realized how many toxic people I had in my life. But as soon as you set a boundary, they don't like it, they just disappear. And you're left with these amazing people that have always been there, who just want the best for you. And you're like, oh my God, why have I spent so much time on energy on people that really aren't, my cheerleaders, essentially. So so lots of people disappeared, and it kind of cleared the lens for all my lovely friends and family.
Well, this is so amazing, right? Because there's so much to everything what you just said, right? Like there's I mean, you could explore from so many different angles and lenses. And I think it's so amazing, right? When people have that realization, when they go, oh, hang on a second, like I'm taking part in this behavior because of what I've experienced in the past, and that's not even necessarily to hold parents accountable or to like blame anything. It has everything to do with our own accountability, and say like, oh my gosh, my nervous system is just seeking familiarity. That's what I'm doing. And it's, you said, I think very, very early on, you were kind of talking about being a parent yourself, and, just how it puts like a little pressure on you, like, oh my gosh, your childhood is so important.
I know.
And it is, and I heard this one time, it was so good. It was like, parents can't help but damage their children in some way. It's like they have like little panes of glass that they're handling, and like, you're going to get fingerprints on it. You're going to chip the edges sometime. It's impossible to keep it perfect, obviously you do the best you can. And but your awareness obviously is huge for that now.
Huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
huge. I don't know if it was always there. My children were probably around age 10, 11, and 12 when I had therapy. Before then, I'd realized that I didn't want to give my children the same childhood I had. So I had really had kind of, it's like a pendulum. If your childhood is here, you'll swing completely the opposite way. Isn't necessarily the right thing to do. I think you all need to be in the middle and it felt quite grounded. But once I'd had therapy, I realized I was so emotionally immature. I was, I always thought I was very self-aware and, had a really good emotional intelligence. No, absolutely. So far away from where I needed to be with my children, to be fair. And I learned about rupture and repair because I'd never had it as a child. You were told off or a parent behaved badly, nobody talked about it. So we never had the opportunity to process it or discuss it or understand. And my parents wouldn't apologize. And even now, as an adult, I'm an adult and they're quite old. Their concept of apologizing would be, well, you made me do it. They're still in that realm.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They've accused me of being jealous, of being brainwashed by my therapist, all the really classic, obvious things. But I learned it's all about ego. As a parent, if you can lose your ego and just say to your child, I really messed up and I'm so sorry. What can I do to make you feel better? And how can I better myself next time? It is not hard, but it takes a lot to kind of lose that ego and not think I am right. I'm the parent that, you should do as I say. So, that taught me a lot. So understanding the ego of it, I do think has a lot of kind of, what's the word, is responsible for a lot of rupture probably, and not a lot of repair. So I learned all of that.
I love this idea of like the noble queen or the noble king and the court jester, and inside everybody you've got this noble queen or noble king, and they know what's right for the kingdom. They know good from evil, right from wrong, and they really want to protect that inner kingdom. But they weren't always an adult. When they were a kid, they didn't have anyone really around but the court jester, and the jester was just doing his best. And but the jester's just a jester. There's no royalty, anything like that. And so it was always whispering in the queen's ear, the king's ear, and saying this is how you should do this. This is how you should do this, and try to do this. And he's just doing his best, but he's just a jester. And so now it's like, as you get older, it's really difficult sometimes to separate your thoughts between, okay, is this coming from the part of me that is this like noble part that that wants to be my best version of myself, or is this some strategy invented by the jester on my shoulder?
Yeah, sure. I've learned to really slow my reactions down and listen to, like, how does it feel if someone says something and you're like, it doesn't feel so good, or my reaction wants to shout. I try and just let it sit, even if it's a couple of seconds, to go, right, okay, I get why I want to shout, but I also understand the other side. It is the other thing. I don't know who the jesters are in your story, but the jesters, my mum purposely went out of her way to hurt me. So lots of parents, you can say, oh, they did the best that they possibly could. I think I know. So I have a very skewed voice in my head of what is telling me those things, and I had to really do a lot of slowing down and questioning that voice and asking, is it true? Is that true? Do they hate me? Because I grew up being told that everybody hated me, and that's really hard to come back from. That's really difficult. And I still, old me would never have been able to do this conversation, because I'd be so upset of so concerned of how you liked me, essentially. I will spiral a tiny bit after this, if I'm being completely honest, how what I've said, will you hate me? or your listeners hate me, but it's just something I'm going to have to deal with, and I deal with it on a daily basis. So I've learned that gesture is just kind of like, stop. Is that true? Do I need to? And that's pretty much what that article is doing, is taking accountability and like what my actions affecting someone else.
It's humongous. And you're reminding me so much of Byron Katie's work. I don't know if you've ever read it, like A Mind at Home with Itself. I think that's what it's called, but it's amazing, right? Anytime you have you call it an intrusive thought or a negative thought or something that wants you to spiral, you can pause, take a breath and say, okay, is that thought true? And then a secondary follow-up is like, okay, do I absolutely know that thought is true? And then who would I be without the thought? And even if you ask those, there's another one, I forget the fourth question, but even with those three questions, it's like, oh, like you can interrupt almost any thought pattern, which is literally an echo of your experiences and what you've been through.
It's true. And I do it with my children. So I've got two teenage girls who are, they're very dramatic. They love a bit of drama. And whenever they like a very simple example, this morning my daughter was going for her like a vaccination, and she's like, I'm really nervous, I'm really stressed, oh my god, like starting to really turn it into a big drama scene. I was like, okay, let's break it down. What are you nervous of? What and you start to trying to instill in them that thought process, because otherwise it could just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just get actually just one tiny prick. Oh, okay, that's actually okay. But then a lifetime of kind of, what's the word? Not security, health, I've lost the word, sorry. A lifetime of, I don't know what the word is. But anyway, and she could kind of then go, actually, it's really so worth it. It's really worth it. So I am trying to get my children to slow it down. They were all amazing through my kind of awakening and my journey. My husband did it with me. He didn't go to therapy, but he definitely worked on himself at the same time. And my children definitely have understood I am different parent, and I parent completely different. There was a lot of arguments at first when everyone was a bit like, okay, so we can't walk over mum anymore, what are we going to do? And I would not answer back, but stand up for myself. Yeah, we've definitely all grown as a family, so everybody does do that. Hopefully that's slowing the thought process, the reaction. And everybody knows we're supposed to respond and not react, so I try, and all of us to. It's not always easy though, is it? But we try.
And what you're saying too is like how you pause and slow down with your kids. Like that was something that was really helpful for me when I started kind of like turning inward and doing a lot more, internal work. And it was most of the time it was just like, okay, well, what do you do with a young child who is like sad and crying? It's okay. You label that emotion for them. You tell them like, that's the sadness that you're feeling. And it's okay to be sad and all this stuff, and these are things that I didn't know until I was, 38. And so it's like,
it's crazy, isn't it? I know. Stop crying. Stop. Why are you crying for?
I'll give you something to cry about. That was the line in my house. And it's like, so it's very interesting to discover that now, and then apply it to yourself and be like, okay, it went, and those late night anxiety bouts at midnight, and you wake up, that everyone has every now and then. It's like, okay, what do I really need right now? Like maybe it's just to go get a blanket and read a book on the couch until I fall asleep again. Like that. What I don't need is this thought spiral that my adult, quote unquote responsible self wants me to do.
Yeah, the way I deal with that is I understand what I can control, and I even did my own chart. And it's quite good when you physically put in what you can and can't control, because then it does kind of ingrain a little bit deeper. And then you realize, so you're spiraling about money or something, you realize there's so very little you can actually do at 3 a.m, and there's actually very little within your control. And then as soon as you realize what is within your control, you're like, oh, so I can do this. It really, for me, it definitely just kind of went, oh, I can go to sleep now and relax. Right? Before I'd just be like, what if this happened? I always spiraled to the point where one of my families had died and we were on the streets. I would spiral so far that we were suddenly homeless and one of us had died. It was like, how can I go from can't afford to pay that bill to suddenly we were on the streets? But now I've learned to know I'm in control. And I try, it's awful. I've so many friends who are like this, and there's unsolicited advice is the worst thing that anyone could do. But when you know that you could help someone, it's really difficult to kind of, have you thought about maybe this? But yeah.
It's so funny, I was just talking about this the other day, and it's like, because there's sometimes where I just want to be like, look, you can cheat off my test. Like, I have the answer. Cheat off me.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're not taking the same test as me, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Like, you can't cheat
No,
off
I
me.
know. Yeah,
This,
but yeah, it's hard.
yeah, I love the idea too, like what I can control, what I can't control, and those are very obviously like really smart things to identify. And like obviously something that you can't control is how another person reacts, or what another person thinks, their perception of you, those things. And so specifically with parents, right? Like, I think this is such an interesting topic right now, because you have a couple of pretty thoughtful generations coming up right now who are now experiencing their relationship with their parents very, very differently than they did when they were kids.
Yeah.
And so I've really, struggled to, I try to be so kind when I talk about my parents, because, like, let's be honest, I had a very different situation than you did, for sure. My parents were very supportive, but holy shit, were they hard on me? It was like every perfection was demanded, it was expected, and that led to a lot of things. And I've kind of like unpacked all of those bags now. And I can also, I've gotten to the point now where I can be really thankful for a lot of the experiences that I had and what they gave me. However, when I go to talk about that, and I've written books about it and I've talked about it, at length, and it's obvious that it doesn't, it's not very well welcomed by my parents sometimes. And
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's okay, you know what I mean? But I think there's something that's so important about doing what you're doing and taking like a hard stop, a hard pause, and like, let's take a look inside and reflect and take personal accountability. And so I'm super curious, right? Because I'm completely making this about me right now, but it's like
That's fine. I love it. Yeah.
My mom, what really helped me with my relationship with my mother was it was actually during an ayahuasca ceremony, believe it or not. But I had a vision of her growing up. And it's something that I hadn't really empathized enough with yet. And I just like realized, she's the youngest of 5, grew up with alcoholic parents, dirt poor, like very, very broke, a very hard, difficult childhood. And I just kind of had this like epiphany, like, yeah, she had to fight for everything and scrape for everything. And like she was the last person to wear hand-me-down clothes, smallest portions at dinner, everything. And so I'm like, yeah, this little, bear cub that your mother was, like, of course she wouldn't like possess the tools to love you, blessed child, like the way that you think you need to be loved. And so that really helped kind of like frame it for me and say like, okay, a lot of those things, not to say that boundaries aren't important, they are, but like a lot of the things that she maybe does or says are easier for me to kind of just like brush off, I guess. And so all of that, I'm curious, like if you know much about where where your parents came from and the way they grew up, and particularly your mother.
I 100% know why she's the way she is. I know all of her history, and there's no, you just, I can't, there's no other way she could have gone, to be fair. But what I can't understand, I'm a parent, is to physically and emotionally hurt a child and not see that hurt in their eyes. That's the thing that I can never, and it's not about forgiveness. I understand it. Actually, that's probably the one thing I can't understand. I understand how she's got to that point, but then now to still not go, actually, and I have said, it's really just, I don't even really need an apology or anything. It's, if she just said, I just struggled. I really struggled, Claire, and it was just really difficult. And I'm so sorry I did that to you. That's all it would take. And but she's deflected, and she's got the whole family to kind of, they all say I'm having a nervous breakdown. That's why they're giving me space. This is a nervous breakdown. I feel fabulous. So, but I found a photo of my grandparents. So it was my dad's mum and my mum's mum together, holding like with their arms around each other. And I just looked at it and I just thought, what happened to you? when you hear about generational trauma, and then there's also, I forgot what it's called, where it actually gets passed through the DNA as well. You know, if one of those, you know, sometimes trauma just lives through you without actually experiencing anything. It's quite tricky. I just think my parents just don't have that emotional intelligence to say, right, our relationship with our daughter is more important than saving our
ego,
our faith, really, isn't it? And that's the thing that I struggle with. I won't share my mum's story. That's hers to share, but I can totally understand her childhood wasn't great. She left home, was straight into a marriage with a husband who's probably quite controlling. There's drink issues. It's really sad. I don't think she should have ever had children. You know, my ideal for her would have just have found herself and loved herself and enjoyed herself and then gone into a relationship, but it didn't. But she did have 3 really lovely children who she manipulated to make herself feel better. And that's the bit I struggle with, understanding how you can look at a child and just for me, it started from a very, very young age, where my elder brothers were at school and I was at home, and I'd slept in chewing gum. I don't know why I was allowed to even have chewing gum at a late age, or why I slept in it, but it all got matted in my hair. And I probably didn't need that much to cut out, but my mum cut all my hair off while my nan sat, and they just laughed at me. And I was just heartbroken for, one, being laughed at by the people I was supposed to trust and losing my long hair. And I think that taught me to not trust her, or women probably, to be fair. But yeah, at that point you think, I must have been 3. How can you not cuddle a 3-year-old crying? That's the bit I'd never. And it's not just that one isolated. There was lots of things that could be laughed off. Oh, we cut her hair off, wasn't it funny? Like, actually, no, I'm heartbroken. But yeah, so there's so many. I don't know how, if anyone has any advice of how I'm not bitter or angry, emotional about it. I understand the whole situation. Apart from that, I'm guessing it's a personality disorder where they can, seeing upset in a child's eyes makes you feel better. I don't know. It's a tricky one. That's why I kind of protect myself and my children from that relationship. To be fair, I don't deserve that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what else could you do? You know, I mean, that's it's so much. And like, you know, like so many things, especially like that, or like the great evils in the world, there's so much of it. And it's like, how could you possibly understand, right? Like, there's nothing to intellectually understand about it. It is, you know, but now it's your, you know, I guess it falls on you, right, to, like, you know, heal that generational trauma that led to this horrible event, and however many other events happen, and then be a good example for your parents, for your children, which you are. And so, I mean, this is, it's just you know, and then the world goes round, and it's just this.
I know, and it just makes me sad that they haven't ever thought, okay, this isn't working for us. You know, that our children, because a narcissist parent will isolate the children and anyone else in the family, so that they make sure that their relationship is the strongest. So they're in the middle and everyone on the outside, but people on the outside don't have a relationship. So it must be quite lonely and quite, you know, sad as they get into older age, that they just aren't doing it. I probably should, I don't know if I should talk about this. This is completely gossipy, but looking at how the Beckhams are handling Brooklyn, they have done exactly the same thing with him. They've created a smear campaign. They've accused his wife of brainwashing him. His dad belittled him. I don't know if you saw he did an interview the week and he said, yes, children make mistakes. And it just is putting Brooklyn in the light that he is, you know, he's not of sound of mind, and he wouldn't possibly say that if he was. Well, Victoria, she'd come forward and said, do you know the story? I'm assuming.
No, I don't. No,
So they're estranged. So Brooklyn Beckham is now estranged from his parents, and it all came from the wedding where Victoria danced on Brooklyn and He can't see a way forward. There's various other things, obviously, but I look at them as a family and thinking, crikey, this child is saying that really hurt me. And you've got a parent basically saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's just, even my parents are in their 70s, these are apparently intelligent people in their late 40s, early 50s. They still haven't got, the ego is still stopping them going, you know what, Brooklyn, that was such a bad move. I'm really sorry. They would rather badmouth him than actually take accountability. So it's a really interesting one. I'm sure there's way more people more qualified to be talking about this, but from my experience, it does baffle me that you can't see it. You can't, if you're hurting someone, that you can't see that you're responsible for it. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
And the reaction alone, right? Like, it's not even if, let's say in a different situation, the offense was just perceived and they didn't mean anything, but the reaction of the self-defensiveness and the reflection, like, oh, you're the crazy one, not me, like that kind of defensiveness. It's like, well, okay, that's not how you treat someone that you love. Like, normally, not even normally. And it's funny because I don't even know what normal is, right? Like, is there such thing as normal? But like, I think a healthy reaction would be, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Like, what? Tell me more. Like, let's get curious about it. Like, how do I make sure this relationship stays strong because I love you? And but when people are, maybe it's narcissism, maybe it's something else, I don't know. But when that ego is in charge, it's all strategy.
And it is how to protect yourself and how to not look at, not to embarrass you. People don't want to be embarrassed. I think it's actually quite healthy to be embarrassed sometimes. It makes you grow. So my husband, back to the article, so my husband's saying how he felt. Oh my God, it's like a huge sucker punch, because can
you just talk about that for the people that haven't read that? Can you just briefly go over what that article was about?
So I heard a story about a lady who was heading towards divorce. Her husband had decided to leave her. She'd supported him through her career, took a back seat, and as she was starting to gain confidence and carve out a career for herself, he left. So in most people's mind, it's like, well, he didn't like that. He didn't like his wife making more money than him, or there's lots of things, or he's ran off with someone. And I shared the story with my husband, and he said, well, he probably felt irrelevant. And I was like, oh, it's a word. I talk about feeling, most of us know how you want to make someone feel seen and heard, but I suppose irrelevant really is that, but it feels a little bit more like a gut punch. Nobody wants to feel irrelevant in a friendship, a relationship, in the world. We want to feel like we're kind of important to some level. And then my husband's saying that to me. Now, my husband and I have a really great relationship, and the comments have been quite interesting because they make out that he's this weak-minded man. I didn't want to share too much about him, but yes, I might have made him feel irrelevant, but he never let himself be irrelevant, if that makes sense. He would still get involved, but I always took control, and so a lot of that was really in my control. And when he said that, I realized how much I still try to control everything at home, and I didn't realize. I thought I was quite good at letting go of control, and I realized how much I step in, and it must make him feel a bit crappy, really. And I wrote it purely because I see, as soon as you see something, it's really hard to unsee it. And I could then see friends bad mouthing their husbands and putting them down, and it's too tricky one, because as women, we've been taught men are evil. We've been held down for years. Let's go for it. And I do think there is obviously some awful men, but there's also some incredible men who have made room for us at the table. Why are you being so mean to them? My husband has been my biggest champion through all of our time together. Was I doing it back? No. And I was just embarrassed. And I still catch myself now. Belittling's a bit harsh, but just making little comments of why you're doing it like that, and it's like, God, it's none of my business. He would never say that to me, and a lot of the comments have been a male and a female role, but it really is just how to operate as a decent human being. And that's why I wrote it. I also wrote it because male suicide is so high. And I just thinking, I'm not saying that women are responsible for this, but if there's an environment where men aren't able to share how they really feel, where are they going with all these thoughts? And I do think, crikey, men work so, some men work, they fall into that role of being the breadwinner, and then they're stuck in that job for a long time. And as you get closer to retirement, you don't want to leave that job because you know your pension's coming. I don't know how it works in America, but in England, you kind of get tied into, I think it's 67, the retirement age. So as you get closer to that, and I think, crikey, if I was told I had to stay in that job until I was in my mid-60s, oh my gosh, I'd find that really difficult.
Yeah.
Going to a job day in, day out, knowing that you have to go to it, and then going home and feeling irrelevant at home. And you just like, I feel trapped at work, irrelevant at home. Men, we're getting better at talking, but there's still, men, there isn't much forum for men to talk about their feelings at this older age group. Hopefully the younger age group are getting better. Yeah. So for me, I wrote it for the good men.
You're bringing up so many good points. This is such a fascinating aspect of like kind of what's going on in modern society right now and how complex it really is. And I don't know where, when the writing kind of turned to this like us versus them thing, but it's like we're in this together, and that is on an individual, whether you're talking about masculine, feminine energy inside the individual. Like it's not just one or the other. Like just because I'm a guy doesn't mean that I don't have feminine energy and that I shouldn't seek that out within me, and vice versa for a woman. And then it's like, on a social level, on a societal level, it's like, we're in this together, and they're like, good is good whether it's in a man's body or a woman's body, it doesn't matter. And what you're talking about is so interesting though, right? With like the comments and the people, first of all, it's hilarious to me when people read like a 2,000 word essay or article and they think they have all of the intricacies of your relationship figured out. That's ridiculous. And it's like, there's any long-term relationship, it goes through seasons, and, one person takes the I don't know, the lead sometimes, and the other person kind of steps back, and you fall. And it's not just like, the only thing I was doing was belittling my husband the whole time and he was just taking it. That's not what the article said whatsoever. It's not, it's just so insane. But the comment section on anything is going to be funny for an article that brings up really good points. And what I really appreciated about the way you wrote that is your pause, just like we've been talking, honestly, like that pause and that reflection, and saying like, whoa, like, okay, what role do I play in this? And like, is this real? Is this a real feeling? It's the exact opposite of someone like maybe a parent would do, and or the Beckhams, right? And they would say, well, you're crazy. Like, why do you feel irrelevant? That's your problem. Go fix it. But you took a pause.
And a lot of the comments said that. A lot of comments were saying that's his responsibility.
Sure. And to some extent it is, right? Like it's a shared responsibility, but it's like, and that you weren't saying like one side or the other. So it's just funny with the comments, but I think you're speaking to something like really powerful. And that is just like the complexity of the modern marriage. And where one person, you have you want to talk about identities, right? If you're in a traditional, let's say a traditional gender role or something like that, the man goes out and works all day and comes home and to the clean house and all this stuff, that's just simply not how it goes anymore. And that's neither good or bad. Like there's no, it just is. And so, looking at how things are changing, I think a lot of people are struggling with how to define their identities. And it's all because it's so unique and it's so individual now. And part of establishing your identity is balancing and figuring out, like not even balancing 50-50, but just like figuring out what the balance of masculine and feminine is for you, and what that looks like. I
think for me, I like to think I am a feminist, but also I like men, I like women. There's lots of women I don't like, and there's lots of men I don't like. Sure. I like to take a person on face value and try not to say all men are like this or all women are like that, and all relationships aren't the same. But I do understand what people need. And you know, we want to feel loved, and we want to feel important, and we want to feel like we belong somewhere. And if your partner isn't making you feel like that, then that's pretty shitty. You know, everybody deserves to feel like that. And sometimes because you suddenly have a ring on your finger, you're allowed to be mean to them. It's like, God, you wouldn't treat a friend like that. So why would you treat someone you're supposed to really love like that? So that's kind of why I wrote it, really. And I like to write, again, not giving unsolicited advice, and you can't help someone if they don't want to be helped. But if I can write something and put myself in that position, that it's less, the penny drops easier for them, rather than if I said, right, don't you make your husband feel irrelevant, that people were like, well, I don't, so what are you on about? With listening to someone else's story and how they've got to it, they might over the time go, oh, okay. And I like to write, so maybe in an hour, 2 hours, or a week's time, they go, okay, I'm doing the thing that I know. So I try and write in a very subtle way, because I can be quite bossy, so I have to be careful that I'm not telling people what to do.
It hit for me big time, and your most recent one did too. But there's I think it's easy, right, when we're talking about like an overt, belittling of a partner. Like obviously nobody wants that. But I think kind of what you were touching on was more covert, and it was more kind of like the things that we get drawn into, and we don't even realize that we're not paying attention to our partners anymore because we're pursuing goals, and which are really amazing, right? Like it's so good to do what you love, and like, but maybe I'm just obsessed with this project and I'm not spending the time that I used to like, to tell my wife what she needs to hear, or to take her out, or to whatever she needs, to give her what she needs. And so like society, a lot of the times, I think, maybe not society, whatever, the environment that we're in kind of lends itself to a lot of these covert problems happening in our relationship that cause people to say, I'm out, man. Like, you're no longer like doing anything for me here. And it's a really interesting thing I think you have to constantly kind of at least be peripherally aware of it in your relationship. I don't know what you think.
Yes, I do. And I think we are led to believe you need to have date nights and do grand gestures to make your partner feel important. I'm very clear, I'm a terrible wife. I'm not very good at marriage. I don't really do date nights. We don't do the romantic thing. But what I learned from my husband, who we've been together for so long, and I cook probably more than him, even though he's better than me, because he finishes work a little bit later, so I cook. He has never moaned once about my cooking. Never ever. And I've served up some rubbish dinners. I can be, he just says, delicious, thank you for cooking that for me. And you're just like, that's so basic. Yeah, when he's cooked, I'm like, oh, I don't really like that. Oh, it's so rude. It's so rude, because it's not just cooking, it's the thinking of it, the prepping, the making it, the serving it. There's, that's so much into it. And now I've started to look where the love is, where the show, the kind of where he shows how he loves me. So I get up in the morning and he's put my breakfast bowl out ready for me. So basic, but that makes me feel relevant. And it's like, we don't need to be so buying flowers or doing something. It's just that thinking about the next step. I know he likes a cup of tea at this time, I'll offer to make one. It is just being thoughtful to someone else and treating your partner how you would treat a friend. And I've been rubbish. I have been rubbish, and I'm amazed I am still married. I must be good at, funny or whatever, interesting to talk to, because I'm a bit crap sometimes. I must make him feel loved, because I love him very much. He's a really nice guy. I've been.
We're all we all go through seasons of rubbish, I think. So it's okay.
But it's a long season.
It's interesting though. Like, you say like I think a lot of the problems are I don't know, maybe difficulties come up in like a longer term relationship with some of those things, and you start taking it for granted, like you
Yes,
start
yeah,
taking for
maybe.
granted the coffee in the morning or the breakfast bowl, and so then it's like,
Yeah,
okay, something that I kind of like to do is I'll every once in a while I'll write like just like a little note, and I'll just write that
yeah,
on a habitual thing, and it's just because I want to, and it's just like I don't know, I'm not trying to like get anything for it. I just want her to know that I'm
yeah,
thinking about her and that I want her to feel
yeah.
good. And so
And that's nice. I would love that.
it's
Yeah, that
it's
would be
really
really lovely.
simple, right? It's really
Really
simple.
simple.
And at the end
Yeah,
of the day, all I want to do is make sure she knows that she's taken care of and she's loved and I'm thinking about her. And that's what we all want.
yeah.
That's basically
Yes,
what
it
we all
is.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, I really like your approach, like your thoughtfulness, like your curiosity about all this. I really appreciate how open you are about this. I think it's amazing to hear people talk about their personal lives like this. I do the same. I think more people it would be really helpful to them if they were open about it, because you just get all that out on the table and you start organizing and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, this is where this fits, this is where this fits. And so now I'm curious, because you obviously like how it kind of bleeds into your work, because
I know.
it's
How do we go from that to making people's homes look nice? Yeah, it's crazy.
sure, but I mean, I think you probably it's very obvious you have like an empathic, a way about you, and so like kind of like a way to kind of like decipher things and pause, get curious, stay open. And a lot of people kind of just want to put everything in boxes, or they have like a framework or a cookie cutter way of doing things.
Yeah.
And you seem very different, and so I'm really curious about like just what experiences you've kind of had, especially in like kind of like where you are now in your career, as far as like how you are taking people's personalities and having the environment kind of like welcome maybe the blossoming of those personalities, is what it sounds like.
So I started to really, so from when I was working in fashion, I would start to buy interior magazines instead, and I was just fascinated with people's homes. And I think it just stemmed from my childhood, from not having a really nice childhood home, and I've always been craving a home. And I know a home now is very different to a physical space. They're two very different things. They can be the same place, but I don't know which article you read, but I didn't feel I was at home until I went to university, and the girls that I shared my dorm floor with would anticipate me coming home, and when I got home they were really excited to see me and we'd all eat together. That was the first time that I felt I'd found a home. When I lived in my parents' house, I came and went as I wanted. Nobody really noticed if I was there or not. So you just don't, it's just a place to sleep. It's not really anywhere that I wanted. So I started to understand about belonging and home. Actually, not at that point, so home. So I've been fascinated. And then I just having a mum where you're just so in tune with their feelings, you're second guessing everything and you're just checking every little look. She never really said very much, it was a look. So I was very in tune with how body language is and how people are. So looking at how people lived and what their homes looked like, I could kind of combine the two. And most clients, I would see them and they would say they want this, this, and this. I would spend an hour asking lots of questions, and you realize they don't want any of those things they've asked for. They need something completely different. And I'd offer them something completely different, and then their homes would work better for them. Then once I kind of did have therapy and I understood a bit more about myself and I suppose humans, I've really struggled with interior design as a classic way of making homes more beautiful, because for me the best place to fulfill our emotional needs are in a home. Where else can you feel that you are connected, that you're loved, that you belong somewhere? It is, for me now, I think we have our idea of home completely the wrong way around. I actually have a book proposal that I've been working on. It is just to encourage people to think about people first and not how it looks. and that should really be secondary. So
I mean, wow, that's such a reflection of modern society anyways, right? Like so much is just performative, and it's
so performative. Yeah. And I've seen people with the biggest houses, big, like huge bedrooms and bedrooms, just sitting there because they like the status. They like this big house to show everybody how successful they are, yet they're miserable. And they might divorce with, I've had clients who have divorced, and clients that are just separate, in separate parts of the house. But the house is beautiful and it's worth lots of money. But if a house is nothing, if the people inside aren't happy. So once I kind of started to understand all of that, invited into people's homes, and you try and ask them, but what do you do? How do you spend your time? I don't care. I've just seen this on Pinterest and I want it. It's really difficult to keep your mouth shut.
I think that's probably in a lot of industries. I experience it in mine when I do a lot of consulting and ghostwriting for different like wellness companies, and you'll go into a initial meeting or consultation with somebody, and they'll be, oh, I want this, I want exactly this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe, but then let's what do you actually want? And then you start like peeling back the onion a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay, what you really want is a connection with an audience that's this and that, and very, very, very different than I saw this on Pinterest and I want it.
Yeah. And the world is crazy. I don't know if you've ever kind of ventured into the interior design world on Instagram, or I don't really do TikTok, so I probably need to research that a little bit more. But there are so many experts on there telling you what your home should look like, what you shouldn't do, and it's very confusing. And it's kind of, people then look at their homes and think they're not good enough. And it just makes me even sadder that you could look at your phone for an hour, then you look up and look at your own home and you just instantly feel rubbish because it doesn't look like the made up pictures on Instagram. And I think that is so sad, because a home really isn't about looking good. If that happens naturally, then that's amazing. But you can spend hours scrolling for a new sofa or a rug. Do you spend those amount of times with your friend? Hours and hours gone.
So do you think that just kind of made me think, is this a function of just this consumption economy that we're in today? Like, do you think people they look at this stuff because it's aesthetically pleasing, and I think you can probably get into if you're into that stuff, like into a rabbit hole of interior design pretty easily, I'm sure. And so is that just like a function of social media that people are wanting to, I don't know, to like curate their environment in a specific way?
Yeah, I think social media is based around making us feel we're lacking in something. So it's basically a huge marketplace. We are the customers. Everyone wants you to comment for something or press a link to buy something. There used to be lots of generous people sharing their knowledge to make your life better, but now they're telling you need to buy something to make your life better. And it doesn't. You might suddenly get the cushion, or I don't know, something else you bought off the shop, and it doesn't change anything. And there's also the huge design process is really important, of thinking, actually, I need a new sofa. I really would love a blue sofa. And you go through that elimination process of finding that sofa. And once you've got it, you'll love it for far longer than someone saying, you need to buy a blue sofa, press this button, you've bought it. You don't understand why, you've got no connection to it or understanding. So you'll just get rid of it when someone says, right, blue sofas are out, you need a pink one. So there's no part of you within that process. So you are quite quickly to move on to the next thing, thinking that will make you happy. Yet I have a whole kind of theory of, if you are so comfortable in yourself and understanding yourself and what you need and what you like, you don't need to look for anyone else for answers. So it would eliminate consumerism. Is huge, isn't it? So I don't buy anything. I don't need to buy anything. And when I need something, I buy it. But, it's crazy how much stuff is in the world. You have enough. All of us have enough stuff to keep us going until we die, essentially. Yeah. So
my guilty habit is books.
That's perfect. Yeah, anything like that. Yeah, books and art. anything like that. You know, I now spend my money on experiences, so I make sure, like this month alone, we've been to the theatre, a concert, the cinema,
Nice.
eating out, seeing friends. I don't buy beauty products, clothes. If I do, they're you know, obviously not beauty products, but I buy secondhand furniture, secondhand clothes. You know, my money, my priority is different. It's connection and experiences and making me richer as a person, to be able to have conversations about things rather than going, oh, did you try that lovely new cream?
And that,
anything, just
like that's what immediately kind of like magnetized me to you, because I was like, this, what a different approach. Like, this is such a different approach than anything else I've really seen. And that's coming from someone who, you know, it's funny because I was in the military before this. I like lived as a bachelor and I just didn't care. But I have like my trinkets and my stuff, and I like my, you know, I have this big flag over my computer with all my, like a bunch of military stuff that people gave me, and just like I have the stuff that I like. But I didn't really appreciate comfort and tranquility and peace until my wife showed me how you can curate an environment. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just love, like this room, she doesn't touch, right? Because this is, well, actually she helped me build this one out too, to make it better. But she like, you know, she knew the score. She understood what the assignment was, you know, and, but then, so she doesn't really mess with this one, but the rest of the house, you know, she just made it so lovely. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just so thankful for that. And I think like you prioritizing, you know, connection, conversation, like, are you actually, are you sitting on this couch, or are you just going to like drape plastic over it and just not touch it? Like, I mean, it's really interesting. I don't, do you have any kind of like fun experiences or stories about people that are just like, you know, I don't know, off the wall or like eccentric or something like that, and they've hired the wrong interior designer?
Probably all of my clients. My favorite was a client that I met. They were like, you know, they had 2 children, husband and wife. He worked full-time in London. She was at home, 2 children at school. And they said, we don't need very much. We bought a house, but we just want to renovate it. And this house was gorgeous. It was already 4 bedrooms. So they would only need 3. So they already had a spare bedroom. And then as the meeting went on and on and on, the house got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think they ended up with 5 spare bedrooms. Yeah. And I was like, a family coming to stay? No, we don't really see family. We'll go and see that. So there was no one actually coming to stay. So so we did all of this, and it was about how the home looked. And then quite far down the project, the wife turned around and said, oh, will there be enough room for me to put my yoga mat down? And I was like, how often do you do yoga? And she's like, every single day. And, you know, just like, where in the conversation didn't that be a priority? And say, I love all these rooms. She could have made the most amazing yoga room, gym, whatever, but it was really about making the home about how it looked rather than how they would use it. And I was just absolutely blown away that she didn't really, whether she didn't know herself well enough to put herself forward, or she was really just wanting to make a house so it looked impressive. But yeah, I thought that was just crazy. I've only really had one client in all the clients who everything was for the children and making them feel better, and it just taught. Actually, so yeah, they were lovely. They made their bedroom smaller so the children could have identical size rooms, and it was just really lovely to see. And everything was geared around family and spaces where they could be together and then they could be apart, which is exactly what I encourage my clients to do. There was one client who I really feel awful. This was before I fully understood, you know, how you should create a home. And this lady had lived in this house for most of her adult life, but it was starting to break. So taps were going and it was just old. But she wanted to replace everything like for like. And I was blown away. I was like, well, that's really old, that tap. And she's like, I don't care. It reminds me of my granny. And I was so awful, I think, because I didn't really embrace that. I kind of wanted to show her what the latest one would look like. And she wanted a pink carpet in the bathroom, and I talked her out of it. But it would have made her so happy. But I was more conscious of like, well, that's not what people do. And then by the end of it, I gave it, and how like my ego was definitely at play there. Like, well, I can't show anyone my work if I'm not proud of it. I don't even know who I thought I was. It's like, it's not my home. I don't live there. This is this lady's home. She's telling me what she wants, and she had very valid reasons. But yeah, I hats off to that lady for getting she got pink carpet throughout the rest of the house and everything else that she wanted. Whole pink house, really. It was crazy, and she absolutely loved it. But I was embarrassed of it. That should have been my proudest work, where I gave someone exactly what they want and put my ego aside. But no, I was too busy thinking about myself in there, which isn't very nice. But yeah.
What a cool realization to have now, though, and it's just like,
now, a bit late.
you don't know until you know. But it's like
it's true. Yeah.
You're just doing your best. But it's, that is really cool, and as you're telling these stories, I've never even really truly put it together how, a person's kind of environment in their home and how they set it up is a very interesting depiction, reflection, projection, I don't know, of what's going on inside for them, and then like family dynamics. Really, really interesting. Yeah, you probably have some pretty cool experiences. So you've mentioned the book proposal. What is next, kind of like on your radar? Like what's down the road for you?
So once I kind of started to gain confidence in myself, I thought, well, what do I want for my life? What would be my kind of biggest goal that what do I want? I'm not getting any younger. And I thought that, and I've always wanted to write a book, and I don't really understand what, but now I have.
Oh, it looks like we lost Claire for just a second here. We're going to try to get her back, though, because we are wrapping up. But we'll see. Gosh, I guess this is the first time I've had to pivot like this for these podcasts. But man, I'll give it a couple minets here. And here she is. She's back.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Easy. I did a horrible job stalling while you were gone. But no, go ahead.
And just to try and so the book was like, I'd really love to write a book, but if you ever have you had books published, you might have more of experience in this, but you really need to have followers and be seen as an expert in your field. And in my head I'm an expert, but in my field not so much. So I'm just trying to build my profile and gain followers so I can go to a publisher and have a kind of, I don't know, a bit more confidence in me to believe what I'm saying is helpful to other people. So
yeah, it's interesting how much that's changed, I feel like, in the age of social media, because it's, it used to be, okay, you send out, and I mean, even like the most prolific authors ever talk about their query letters and their, they had Stephen King posted up like 100 whatever, query rejection letters on his walls. And, it's just like hilarious to think that anyone rejected Stephen King.
I know. And same with who wrote Harry Potter. She had so many as well, didn't she? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, anyone.
I don't think my proposal has been is perfect, and I'm trying to get as much experience of writing and understanding people more and what readers like to read, to be fair. So
yeah. It's also interesting though, because there's so much crap out there that you're like, how did you get published? But it takes, I think it takes the right person meeting you and the right kind of just, relationship dynamic to be like, oh, I want to support you. Like, let's go. And then, and they see how hard you're willing to work. And then you go from there.
I am saying something against everybody else as well. So everyone is, there's so many interior books are showing you how to make your home look beautiful, where really they just end up as coffee table books. And I'm trying to get people to think, it does work. There's lots of the non-fiction books are about changing mindset. I'm not sure if homeowners or anyone who's in decor is interested in changing their mindset away from aesthetics to people. I'm not sure yet. So I don't know. What's your view? Do you think it's something people would like to read, or? I
say lead the charge, because I mean, it's resonating for me. It's not like I'm going to be, approaching interior design anytime soon, but it's certainly resonated for me enough for me to reach out and be like, I'd like to learn more about you. And so that probably says something. But like we've also talked about, I think at the very beginning of this conversation, it was just kind of like, like, you know, kind of like letting the universe kind of show you where you need to go and where you need to be. And we don't always get it right, and that's okay too. And it's like everything is a learning process, and maybe trying your hand at this leads to something else, and then it's
Yeah,
just,
I totally, yeah.
who
I
knows?
definitely believe in that. And
Yeah.
open any doors that open. The thing is, my book isn't really about interior design. It's just about home. It's just, you know, your home should look right for you and nobody else. It doesn't really matter. If you love it, that's all that matters. And I have learned that after working with a client where I told her it did matter that what it looked like, but really it doesn't. It's, you know, whatever makes you feel good. As we learn about our nervous system as well, and how our environment can help, you know, there's so much we're learning about home. I think it is the unutilized mental tool of our life, really. You know, the one place where you can be safe, and we're not giving it the best shot we can. We're just making it look pretty, but it's not really supporting us the way it can do. So I'd like to change people's mindset to think about home differently.
Yeah. I mean, even the word home, like it means so much. And
Yeah.
so I can't wait to read it, whenever you post it, or whenever you publish it. Cause I mean, it's so much more than, you know, making a selection online about what furniture you're going to put.
So much.
And you talk about relationships, and talking about, you know, like your past and your nervous system, and how that feeds into your environment, and how your environment affects you and all. I mean, who wouldn't want to read and discover more about that? Like, you spend more time at home than you do anywhere else, most likely.
I know. So. And our homes have changed so much since COVID. I don't know if you've always worked at home, but, you know, so many of us work at home. Our homes really aren't fit for purpose anymore. So, you know, we don't have, most people need 2 offices if both partners are working at home, or I just think we still, I don't know, there's so much we need to learn about our home environment that could really benefit us. At the moment, I think we're chasing the wrong things, definitely.
Yeah.
And social media helps us chase them, shows us like a dangling carrot, buy this, and that doesn't make us happy short term, but not long term, definitely.
Learning more about our homes, and then in the process learning more about ourselves, and then our homes, and ourselves. So amazing. Well, Claire, did we miss anything? I think this was a really wonderful conversation.
I think we talked about a lot. I did write some notes just to check that I didn't miss anything I need to talk about. But no, thank you so much for your time. It's been exciting to actually talk about, because this has been inside of me for a long time, and then I've had the courage to actually share it. It's nice that people are actually interested in knowing my crazes, I call them, the real. As I said, and I've always been here, but over the last few years I've been peeling away. So this is what's underneath. So
amazing.
It's true what they say, isn't it? Dance crazy on the dance floor, and then the people that like you will join you or something. So that's my life at the moment. So
I love it. Where can people find you?
So I dabble a tiny bit on Instagram, but I find that really challenging. Mainly Substack under the Harmonious Home. That's me.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes, and we'll get this out on Spotify and on Substack. Claire, thank you so much. Thank you for being so open and honest and sharing everything. I really appreciate this conversation, and I hope our listeners get a lot out of it.
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.